This guy saved pennies for 45 years, then he cashed them in. Was it worth it? Before you watch the video and find out the total amount saved, we want you to have a guess at how much you think he saved in pennies in 45 years. Write the answer in the comments and then watch the video to see how close you are. Staff at Ruston Origin Bank in Ruston, Louisiana will never forget the day in October 2015 when Arthur Anders arrived at their branch to make a deposit. Why? Because Anders wasn't making an ordinary deposit. He was making a deposit of pennies. A lot of pennies. In fact, Anders had so many pennies to deposit that transporting them to the bank required a truck, while actually bringing them into the premises needed a cart and hand barrow. The whole operation required the help of 5 friends and family members as the coins were stored in 15 5-gallon water bottles. Well aware that his penny stash was out of the ordinary, Anders had actually contacted the bank ahead of time to warn them. Speaking to ABC News, the bank's senior vice president, Ryan Kilpatrick, said, "It's shocking for sure. I would say he's done a lot of collecting over the years." Now in his mid-70s, Anders had 45 years prior decided to begin saving the pennies that came his way. The very first penny he saved was one he had found lying on the ground. Speaking to the News Star in 2015, Anders said, "I became convinced that spotting a lost or dropped penny was an additional God-given incentive, reminding me to always be thankful. There have been days where I failed to pray, and more often than not, a lost or dropped penny would show up to remind me," Anders said. For years, he had been happy to keep the pennies in his Ruston home, but in 2015, he learned that their total value meant they weren't covered by his house insurance, so it was time to take them to the bank. Anders had previously worked for the Jackson School Board as a supervisor looking after students who had been suspended from class. He recalled that the children would save up their pennies and that he would buy them to add to his collection. "But I never allowed anyone, not even my wife nor children, to give me pennies without being compensated," he recalled. Anders singled out his old buddy, Jack Domino Kid Brown, as being particularly helpful with his coin-saving efforts. "Jack saved nickels as I saved pennies, and every nickel that passed through my hands I would save for him. He did likewise with pennies for me," the hoarder extraordinaire remembered. "Our exchange became competitive, by each trying to outdo the other and consequently our collections. His nickels and my pennies began to multiply." Meanwhile, Anders displayed a certain ruthlessness in his penny collecting habits. "If I was at someone's house and I found a penny, I would pick it up and I would keep it. I will always tell the person that if it's a quarter, I would give it back, but since it is a penny, I'm keeping it," he told the News Star. In fact, Anders stopped spending pennies altogether. Instead, he saved them all up to add to his ever-growing collection. "I would never spend a penny. I would break $1 before giving up a penny," Anders said. This extraordinary penny collection furthermore gave Anders both satisfaction and pleasure. Even when, in the 1970s, the United States government offered a premium of $25 for every $100 worth of pennies handed in, Anders didn't waver. He hung on to his precious pennies. The incredible estimated weight of the pennies came in at around 2,800 pounds. To put that figure in perspective, it's more than the weight of an average American bison. Now, once the 15 water bottles filled with coins had been hauled into the bank, the next challenge was how to efficiently release them from their plastic homes. And it turned out that the quickest way to do this, well, was to take an axe and break the containers. Then, after the pennies were retrieved from the bottles, the task of counting could start. Unsurprisingly, this was done with automatic counting machines. After all, nobody wants to count 2,800 pounds of pennies by hand. Plastic buckets were used to pour the pennies into the counting machines, but even with the use of automatic counters, tallying up all the pennies took 5 hours of continuous counting. As Anders watched on, the machines gobbled up the pennies he had saved for 45 years. Incredibly too, bank staff had to change the coin machine bags about every 20 minutes because each could only hold a maximum of $50 worth of pennies. Eventually, all of the pennies were counted, so now came the moment of truth. What was the final value of the pennies that Anders had spent 45 years of his life collecting? The answer was an impressive $5,136.14. In total, Anders had collected 513,614 pennies in 45 years, or 16,425 days. This means that on an average day, he had collected around 31 pennies. Here was a man who certainly lived by the adage, see a penny, pick it up, then all day long you'll have good luck. And his luck came in the shape of a cool $5 grand. So what was Anders going to spend his hard-saved $5,000 on? A wild weekend in Vegas? A Rolex watch? Disappointingly, the truth was far less romantic. Anders had recently had some expensive dental treatment and the money was to go towards paying off the bill. That's a lot of saving for a dental bill. So, how close was your guess? I for sure thought it would have been higher. Thanks for watching and we hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future videos.